Yeah, I've had a few encounters where I've heard disembodied, some voices, some laughters. I've heard growling a couple of times in a couple of places that I've been, and lucid dreaming, where I see my hands as a blue translucent state and I can interact with my asleep body, and I can see myself out of body, and I can see, spirits passing by me. I've been in tune with it. I understand that there's spirits in this world, and I understand I have respect, nothing but respect, until it gets hostile. That's when I have a problem. So,
have you dealt with a hostile or negative entity?
In my household, I have, in a room downstairs, hearing something kind of growl, and I've tried to say, whatever you are, you have no power over me. You have no power in this realm. You need to leave. You are not welcomed here. This place is like, a house of love. This is a house of pureness, and you need to leave. Afterwards, I've heard a couple things here and there, but nothing as of recent. Sometimes when I'm not here, I don't know what's going on, but as far as I know, while I'm here, nothing's gone on.
Because a lot of times that will help, unless it's like a really aggressive other form.
I've seen the lady in a white dress walking by, and I've asked my cousins about it, and they've told me they've seen the same apparition. It seems to be someone of a female, seemingly in like either a wedding dress or a very nice white dress, and it just drags along the floor, and occasionally you'll hear the heel of her shoes walk, and then that's it. You only hear like 2-3 steps, then she disappears. I just seen them walk by, and I look to see if they're there. They're gone. I've seen her twice. Once when I was walking out of the kitchen to the living room, I seen her there, and then from the living room, this is a different instance, but from the living room heading towards like the bathrooms, I seen her walk same way I was going, but I'd seen her just walking briskly. Not like she's rushing around or running, but just in like a pace, like someone's walking to go grab something and then coming back quickly. So I haven't seen her since, but they have mentioned that they've seen that apparition before. They don't know who it is. They've never investigated who it is. So they don't exactly know who or what happened on that land. They know that apparition is there.
If it's residual, do you know if it does the same pattern?
I would say yeah, because I've seen her walking eerily in the same direction. So figuring that she has like a looped pattern, maybe, from my theory as I've gotten older and I've remembered and, reminisced on certain events, I think that she's residual and she's stuck on the land and she's just in a loop of what she did before maybe she tragically passed away, or she's locked in almost like a purgatory state where she can't escape, but she's just there. She's not malicious either. She's attacked anybody, that she's scared anybody away or growled or anything. She just mainly just walks. So I've heard her heels. I've heard it. So I know that she exists and can exist or interact with the mortal plane, but interacting like a poltergeist. She's not like a demon. She's not doing anything, but she's just there. So I think she's just like a residual of what was once there.
You said that you have astral projected?
Yeah.
Out of body experiences?
That started, 16, 17. I experienced it for the first time and I got scared. So I started asking, friends or people about it. And they've told me I've never heard of that. And I've asked my friend who is of Native American descent, that's a sign that you're in tune to the spirit world, able to peer into the eyes of the spirits, and they're able to peer into the eyes of yours. So she goes, it's an even exchange, but that comes sometimes with a cost, where sometimes something negative will come out of it or something positive. To me, I can see certain spirits. Like I've seen when I'm in that blue projection, I've seen spirits of relatives who have long been passed. Twice I've seen them, and I've gotten to talk with a couple of them and say hi, and interact. And sometimes they inform me, like, say hi to this person, say hi to that person, or be safe, be careful, I'm watching over you. I see myself asleep wherever I'm sleeping, whether it's on the couch, in my room, or what have you. I see myself and I can walk and face through doors, through walls and everything. So I can go to whoever, and I can see when certain spirits are there. So, that of the dead relatives I've seen twice. I've seen them both times I've done it. And there's other times where I just am in that state and I'm just sitting there because I don't know what to do. Gone with my friends to an Airbnb. A Ouija board was used there, long before they used it to rent out to an Airbnb. And I knew that a Ouija board was there and I can sense it. And I said, hey, do you have the number to the owner? And he goes, yeah. He sent me a text message of the phone number and I called them, and they asked, oh, is this a complaint about the Airbnb? And I said, no, I just have a question because I'm attuned to spirits. I can understand, if they're there or not. And I asked the lady, the wife, at least she had the number on there. I asked her, I said, hey, by any chance, did you use a Ouija board here? By any means necessary, did you use a Ouija board? And she goes, yeah, and we closed it. We had somebody here who closed it for us properly. So that way it wasn't left open. And I told her, I was like, I can feel that you used it and it was closed, but you can feel the residual energy. It felt almost heavy or like depressing. When you get in a scenario where you're reading a sad book, you're listening to a sad song, you're watching a sad movie, that sense of sadness, dread, or depression.
It's a weight.
It almost feels like a weighted blanket when you enter. When I entered that home, it felt like that blanket was just hurled on me and almost like you fall. I mean, I didn't fall, thankfully, but you get the feeling that you're in that area of something that was sad. And the lady, I spoke with her after the Airbnb and I asked her, I was like, what did you use it for? Because some people who use Ouija boards use it to, just to play around thinking that, oh, there's no spirits, these aren't real, and then they summon something. And they don't know how to close it, they leave it open. She told me that she was trying to contact her mother, her deceased mother. She was trying to talk to her and, interact. And so I told her, thankfully you closed it, because if you left it open, that could bring demons into this household. And we discovered that Ouija board and we just told her, we do not touch that, do not touch Ouija boards. And then in any instance that I see Ouija boards out, I know what that has led to.
Yeah.
You're
vulnerable.
You're vulnerable, and always at that age, because you don't know what the spirit world is, nor do you know attachments. You don't know, unless you've been around it, and not everybody knows what that world is, nor are able to sense it. Some people are more attuned, like as people say, like myself, where we know certain spirits are there or certain events have occurred. That I believe that once we are deceased, that we move on to another plane and we still live on. I've had experiences of, palm readers telling me that I'm an old spirit in this world. Like twice I've had that same thing. I've gotten 2 palm readings and they've told me the same thing, that I'm an old spirit in this realm, which I don't understand. The first time I thought it was like, oh, this is it's a scam. They're trying to get you to keep going, pay more. But the second time I did it and they said the same thing and almost eerily the same, maybe there's some merit to this. Like why these 2 events occur together.
Have you received any other signs or maybe clues as to what you went through possibly in past lives?
Look through history books and I'll see pictures of, World War I, World War II, 9/11, Pearl Harbor. All events that have been tragic in history or involving a war, I get the feeling that I was there. Like I can tell you events that occurred. I can tell you certain things that occurred, which is weird. And the other thing is when I sleep often at night, and it's more becoming recent and it's becoming more frequent, that I dream of what happens the next day. So I can see what happens. Like it's not even specific. Like it's not like it's always the morning or it's always the afternoon or it's always at night. It's in different integers and it's at different moments that I can see moments of the day, of the next day. So like deja vu every time that event occurs. And it's random events. It could be, like the most recent one was that the TV, like I was watching YouTube on the TV on a certain video but I wasn't viewing it from the perspective of me sitting down. It was the perspective of me outside. And what happened was I went outside to water the grass and I accidentally had that video running. And the moment of that video was the same moment that I walked by the window and looked inside, and it was that same moment. I was I had to stop for a moment. It was like very odd coincidence with this together.
I wonder if you're somehow jumping between dimensions.
My friend with, who was of the Native American tribe, that she was saying, you can, and I told her that I used to be able to do that too. And she told me it's weird. You're able to time slip. That's what she called it, was time slipping. She goes, it's a rare phenomenon that people can peer into the future and see a glimpse of your day, and in reality, you act on that. And she's like, that's rare. The only one in X amount of people have it. It's a rare phenomenon, but it's a thing. And I'm wondering myself, was me being able to astral project or being able to see the translucent hands, is that a fallout of it? Did I gain that ability because of me being able to peer into the spirit realm? It's like a bane, is it a curse that I have it? Because being able to see something that occurs, and sometimes you might be able to prevent it, And so that's why I'm wondering why. Or a psychic medium, you can feel the energy off of somebody, or you can feel the energy in the room. When a situation's gonna be palpable, you try and escape it. That's what I always do.
You're certainly an empath for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to figure out, my full capability. When you tell people about it and they're like, no, you're lying, or you're full of it, that's not true, yeah, sure, and they don't believe you. But then when something happens to them,
emotions too.
Oh yeah. Commonly that I've read or seen online is that people say that when you go to the Titanic Museum and you see all talking about the freezing water, you always get the sense of sadness, or you're in the room with all the kids' toys and stuff like that. People say they walk out of that room crying. You just get this overwhelming sense of just sadness. That's just odd, but I get it. I understand.
Figured out personally for yourself yet what your purpose is?
That's the funny thing, is people, they ask you oh, you have a lingering purpose as an old soul, and that's the thing that I want to figure out is what is my grand purpose? Because they've told me that, oh, you're an old soul, you have a purpose still. What is that purpose? To figure out what that path is, it would be interesting to figure that out. Looking at historic sites, you always see where, because they always have something about the land before it. So they always tell you, example, downtown Riverside, there's always a plaque that describes the Native American tribes that were here once before. And it's sacred burial land. Seeing the residuals effects on the real world, where again, and that's the thing of, if you're in tune to it, you can feel it and you sense it, well, then yeah, you're gonna feel something. But I think, to your point, going back to our primitive states of, get rid of the technology, get rid of certain things that, have consumed us, at least in the modern era, going back to just coal mining or something like Industrial Revolution, or, the gold rush, that would elicit more, I think, activity, because it's something that, spirits of the past who did, so they see us doing it, then they're going to be oh, they understand what we're going through, and not, just consumed, down to earth. It's, you get that feeling. There's always a demon mimicking that of something that's innocent that gets you to do something. Some spirits do gain hatred because of the way they passed. That's a common thing. You hear it a lot. You see it on ghost shows, or you see it on paranormal investigation things. You hear that when spirits do not die the way that they're intended, they become rageful, they become vengeful, they become, angered, so they turn into demonic entities. And it's I'm wondering if that kid, because he hung himself by accident, wondering if, as a result, he was enraged by it and then became a demonic spirit, and then that's why the red eyes. But it's a rageful spirit because something happened, maybe it was a freak accident, but something led to it, but it's very weird too that, he was saying that it's in the winter, apparitions appear at any given time. It's just weird that it's during winter specifically. So I'm wondering what that entails. Maybe that's the weakest point, is winter, because everybody's focusing on other stuff. They're not focusing on what's behind them. So what's behind them is spirit realm. Then they come in. So you allow them to come in, basically. We do EVP sessions afterwards to light Palo Santo and tell it, like, look, if you were here before we were here, you are entitled to this. You can stay. But anything else outside of this that is not meant to be here, you are not welcomed. Please leave. You know, this place is not for you. You go to your final resting place and stay there. Which, due to unfortunate circumstances, that little kid is stuck there. But why is it a demon? You know, why would a little innocent soul of a kid become demonic?